Hey everyone, it's Dead Ponic. I hope you guys are doing all well, and I have some exciting news. So I was, browsing through my analytics, and I just so happened to notice that I've reached 250 subs. This is significant for me, and I thought I'd take the time to travel down memory lane and just talk about some of the things that I've experienced over the course of my YouTube career and all that great stuff while, some gameplay is playing in the background. Now, as of September of last year, my channel is officially 10 years old, and I had been meaning to, do a retrospective on my channel as a whole, but I didn't actually start posting videos until December of 2014, so you could say this is kind of overdue a little bit, but I wanted to effectively just talk about my career as a YouTuber and what future projects am I in the works of working on. And for me, okay, the life of a YouTuber when I first started out was not easy, but it was worth the patience. And I ultimately realized that I had to find that balance between my work life and my personal life and my YouTube life. Now, I don't often mingle um, my personal life with my YouTube life. I'll say, oh yeah, I have a YouTube channel, I make videos, that kind of thing, but I'm not going to be the kind of person to, you know, do like personal videos unless I'm in a particular mood. And the thing that kind of makes me appreciate my life as a YouTuber is the fact that as of last year, I started doing the memorial videos of famous actors. I didn't used to do that. That was something that was basically just kind of an afterthought because it's like when you talk about these actors, you're basically giving your insight to them and how they effectively just how they affected you as a person and their work specifically. For example, Betty White. The only thing I knew Betty White from was, believe it or not, Golden Girls, which I've been watching as of recently. It's a really funny show. And I knew her from the Snickers commercial, and I knew her from Hot in Cleveland, which is basically kind of a modern version of Golden Girls. And I have no issue with that. Like, that was significant because it was the last day before New Year's when she passed away. And then you got Kevin Conroy. That was significant because he was the voice of Batman for many people, myself included. And I really enjoyed his work. And I think he did a wonderful job, especially in the Arkham games. He was working alongside Mark Hamill must have been like the dream, the opportunity of a lifetime. And that was something that I knew I had to make that video. I had to make that video when he passed away. And then James Earl Jones just this past year. That one was significant for a lot of people. A lot of people love James Earl Jones. And I have to say, yeah, I can understand why. He is so many things to so many people, but to me, he will always be Darth Vader. He will always be the voice of Darth Vader. And I appreciate that. And when I do these memorial videos, I tend to prioritize how did they affect me as a person? How do I honor their legacy without compromising them, who they are as a person, and without trying to speak ill will of them, despite all their past failings? The reason I didn't do the one for Carrie Fisher so long ago was because it was too difficult. So let's move on. So future projects. So I have a few projects that I wanted to kind of put on the table that I figure I might as well discuss this and where my mindset as to what kind of mindset I'm in to making these projects and where did I get my inspiration and all that. But I want to quickly talk about the Psychological Profile series and where I sit on that. So, some of you might be wondering where the Psychological Profile series came from. And for that, basically, that has a lot to do with Orange because he's currently working on his psychology degree. I believe that's what he's going to college for. But basically, we talked in private about a lot of characters, and he basically gave me the rundown regarding like what kind of mental health issue they would have within a real life context. Now, I am aware that Cinema Therapy did do some major characters. Like, they did do some of the Star Wars characters, they did a lot of Marvel characters, and they did quite a couple DC characters, if I'm not mistaken. But basically, that whole idea was, it came from Orange, and I was inspired to do my first psychological profile on the Green Goblin. Now, my biggest mistake that I made was that I used the first Raimi movie as my basis rather than use his entire plethora of material, and that kind of bit me in the butt a little bit because I was mainly focusing on the first movie, which it's still a good movie, and it's a great dive into Norman psychologically. And also, I did point out that the basically the Goblin personality was basically lingering there, but it was triggered not biologically, but basically chemically, which I thought was pretty significant. And I was really proud of that video, and I did another one that, Scarecrow. Okay, so the basic idea was I would do Marvel and DC. I kind of restricted myself to that because there are some other universes I would really like to get into, but I don't have enough knowledge. Like, for example, there's one, I forget which one, but there are characters that I'm really interested in doing, but unfortunately, Cinema Therapy basically beat me to it, or I just don't have enough information. So I have to work with what I have, and I didn't do as I said in that very first video, I'm not covering actual serial killers like Cletus Cassidy or Victor Zsasz, because they are technically already declared serial killers, and therefore, and also Victor Zsasz has already been diagnosed, at least in one of the comics that I remember. He's diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, or at least some version of schizophrenia. And I figured, I'll let the experts handle that. But yeah, and I'm very proud of that video. But that was where I had the most success, and I found my most success there. And then I did the Versus videos, and the Versus videos are doing pretty well. So let's take a deep dive into my next major projects, and I'll tell you basically my mindset and what I'm thinking going into this, and what are my plans for the future. So I'm trying out a new style, and I'm taking a little bit of a page out of Aspect Tactics and going PowerPoint. So I'm currently working on editing a project for Orange. I'm not going to reveal any of the details, and it is still a work in progress. I'm not even halfway finished. But his project, once that project is done, it will go on his channel. So don't worry about that. So the next major collab project that I will be doing with Orange will be a versus between Qui-Gon Jinn and Ram Koda. And this is likely to be a very short versus because they have semi-limited information to work with. Qui-Gon has enough, but it's Ram Koda that I'm going to have to really struggle with. And I've actually taken to titling this as the Jedi Mavericks. This will be in the style of Jed Zarai's Strike Zone series. And then production for this will start once I'm done with Orange's project, and the video will actually go on his channel, which leads me into my own verses, which will be the end of my season 1. So I'm keeping the next 2 versus matchups that are solo projects a secret for now because I don't want to ruin anything. And one of them will act as the season finale, even though technically the Qui-Gon Jinn versus Ram Koda video will technically go in my playlist as well. But that one will actually act as my season finale, and then the other one will open season 2. And that second one will probably be more of a casual examination or more of a, an obvious conclusion, kind of like what Gentrai did with Malak and Windu. No spoilers as to who I'm actually pitting Windu against, but we'll keep it on the down low for now. Another project I have in the works and I'm currently scripting is a full breakdown of the Dark Knight's equipment, martial training, techniques, and feats in the style of a versus breakdown. This was inspired by Genzurai's dedicated profile series, and he was kind enough to provide his current analytical format thanks to my in-depth paragraph that I commented on his Darth Vader Marshall video. Now, one project that I was actually considered doing as well was suggested to me by Orange, and that's doing a psychological profile of Buddy Pine, aka Syndrome, from the first Incredibles movie. I am considering doing this not as a scripted project, but more of a live breakdown will be very different from my other 2 videos. And I'm actually considering getting Orange involved in the project since he has in-depth psychological knowledge. And it's good to bounce off with somebody in that sense. So some miscellaneous projects that I've been looking into is one is doing a Warhammer 40k Army List showcase. I actually got into the universe thanks to Bricky, and I've wanted to do a showcase for some of the lists that I've created and the tactics I would develop with those lists. Then I've got a Magic deck showcase that I've got this is for decks that I currently own and are looking to build. And then a Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck showcase, which is something of a part 2, which will showcase some of the other decks I've actually built over the years. As for gaming playthroughs, well, Jedi Academy is in the works. I might actually beat Lightning to the punch because so many of his fans have actually asked when that's coming, but we'll see what happens. I am going to be continuing Final Fantasy X up to a certain point, and I will let you know when that point is because I'll be very angry. And I'm hoping to start a playthrough of Spider-Man 2 2022 at some point. No guarantees on that. And then I'm working on Jedi Survivor in terms of editing and all that, and it's taking longer than I like, but most of the parts are recorded, so I can just edit them along and then render them and get them posted. So with that, that's the layout for future projects. There might be some others that I haven't mentioned here. I don't know yet. But once again, thank you guys so much for getting to 250 subs. That is amazing, and it means a lot to me. And the next step will be to get to 300. And thank you so much for listening. I hope this wasn't too boring. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.